tip.
Good afternoon. It is August 26th, 2024. You're listening to a little column A, little column B, hosted by Will Leanos and hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? We are on the cusp of real football starting. So, of course, today I have for you a very unique baseball story. Today, history was made when Danny Jensen played for the Red Sox. All right, that seems pretty normal. The reason that it is history-making is because this game started in June. He was on the Blue Jays. It got rained out. In the in-between, he was traded. It is the first time in history that a player has played for both teams in the same game. Welcome to August.
Wow. I have no... Is there another sport this could happen in? Is this it?
I'm trying to think. There's really not... You wouldn't have a... Yeah, you don't have delays in football, inside basketball. Something really, really goofy could happen, but already this is goofy. So,
That's
I think baseball
bizarre.
is really the main one.
Sorry, I didn't want to derail it. I'm just more of like, all right, well, is this a response that like I should be aware of? I have no... There's no catalog of information that I could pull from that's like, hey, yeah, well, you know, at this time when this happened, we did this and this. It's just so bizarre. Did he win twice or lose twice? It's only, I guess it's still one game. So did he win? Did he
I think he won. I think he won and lost.
Does that go on his record?
I don't know. This has never happened before.
Do you think it should be a loss on his record because he started on that other team? I mean, if they went on to win the championship, he'd get a ring. I think that should still count for a loss.
I think it goes as a loss because he was on the Red Sox at the end of the game when they lost.
That's wild. I don't have any baseball takes. I'm sorry. I'm weeks away from football, and that's really all I have written down in my notes. I wish I could go back and forth with some baseball, but I got nothing. With the Yankees do like 3 home runs last night. That's cool. That's points.
Not just
yeah.
It's
woohoo.
More than that is Aaron Judge hitting 51 and 52. He's in a very small list now of guys that have hit 50 home runs in three consecutive years. So outside chance at Barry Bonds' record. Very unlikely. I think there's 30-ish games left, so you almost have to hit one a game. That's a bit much, but outside chance, that could definitely make baseball interesting down the stretch.
Yeah, when I listen to this back after the show's over here, I'm going to skip this part. You ready to talk football?
Okay. I am ready to talk football. Can't wait.
All right, we got one more week of division picks. So we got some today. We're doing the NFC, AFC East. And fantasy drafts are coming up. We're going to give you as much information as we can, as many tips as we can between these divisions. Zach just informed me before this that he actually has a draft that's going to occur before next week's podcast. That this really is crunch time then. So whatever notes you got out there, just let them loose. Any sense of nervousness for the first draft, or is the first one the easy one?
First one's the easy one. It's a free work league. So there's definitely some friendly trash talk around the office, but it's definitely kind of down the list on the on the order of the ones that I care the most about. But I still prepare for it the same way I would for any of the other drafts of comparing the default rankings to my rankings and making sure that I have my tiers all prepared. So I'm a little nervous on the timing of it, but for the actual draft, I think it's a great way to start off.
And we're here. We made it. NFC East, AFC East, obviously lots of drama between both of them. I believe the NFC has had a different winner for a very long time. They've just bounced back and forth between Philly and Dallas. Dallas just closed a big deal. I think it was just today or yesterday or whatever time frame of listening to this podcast. CeeDee Lamb getting some big money. I think that was expected. I think they really didn't have a choice. I didn't imagine this kind of going any scenario. It was just a matter of what number it was going to finally be. And I'm sure there'll be a ripple effect of who else is under a contract dispute right now and will be probably based on whatever number CeeDee Lamb ends up with. So big news for Dallas. I think it's a overrated Dallas team overall, though. I'm not in love with this team. I can't believe that they're starting Ezekiel Elliott, and it seems like that's a normal thing because he was there for so long. But I'm a Patriot fan. You're a Patriot fan. We saw Zeke last year. Is there any reason at all that you think, oh man, he should be a starter again? I didn't get starter vibes at all from him. I just don't see how this team actually has a chance of winning the division when they're going in with a likely overrated Dak Prescott, a really good CeeDee Lamb, and Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, what else we got going on here? Brandon Cooks, Jake Ferguson. This is the offense you're going to put up there. I just, when you look at Philly, who added Saquon Barkley, I know maybe overhyped name, but I think a really good line in Saquon is be really hard to stop. And then I'd rather have Brown and Hurts and Devontae Smith. I don't know. I went with Philly at 1. I'm assuming you did as well. And I just probably more curious to see where Dallas actually fell on the list. I got him at 2. Who would you end up going with at the top here?
Went with the Eagles. Yep. Hurts. You're running. They got AJ Brown as the main weapon, and for fantasy, this isn't my tip, but just I think you could just like go with almost like any of the guys on the Eagles, and they're going to put up points for you.
Arguments against Philly. There's rumors of some coach quarterback drama. I don't know how much truth there is, and it apparently roots back to last season, which there was some bad mojo at points of last year. I mean, this team, for as successful as they were, I don't think really achieved what they were supposed to, and there's some really bad vibes, I think, at certain points of the season.
They just collapsed down the stretch.
It was more than just injuries as well. I'm not sure what it is, but I will say adding Saquon is a huge addition. I do think losing, and I'm gonna butcher the name. It's one of the Kelce's of the center, right? It's not Travis Kelce. It's Jason Kelce. I think he's retired. I'm not sure what his plan is.
Nope. Yep. He's retired.
He's got a locker still. Is that weird?
Does he?
Yeah, he
That's
does.
Weird.
Yeah, no, he does.
Do we still have a locker for Tom in Foxborough?
Oh man, yeah, I would based on what I saw last night.
No, but we're stupid fans. Like just how is there enough room? Just space alone. Isn't there just like limited amount? Why does he still have a locker?
I believe he's doing something with the coaching staff. It's also been rumored that he's still staying in very good shape. I don't know more than that. That's all I got. It's some decent reporting.
All right.
So we both got Philly on top. I'm not really scared of the drama. I think that's actually normal. I imagine most coach and quarterbacks have bickering sessions regularly throughout the season.
Yeah, it's just a matter of it getting out, and I think this is a prime situation of winning cures everything. The whole beginning of the year, you didn't hear any of that, and then when the losing starts, that's when all of a sudden, hey, these guys don't really like each other, comes out. So I think as long as they're winning, not gonna be a problem.
Philly's got the 9th easiest schedule going into the year. I think that helps a lot of fantasy guys throughout this entire roster. AJ Brown, I think, is actually arguably probably the best deal you can get. I mean, he's going to sneak maybe outside the top 10, and I think you're getting really good value for that. Hurts, I'd like to be in support of all this, but I think Saquon is going to be the guy you're going to want, and I think him not being a true number 1 pick this year is just really good value. But I think this team's going to put up a lot of points. I think they've got some guys that could share the ball. But who did you like for fantasy on this team?
Definitely liked AJ Brown. My concern with Saquon, and you mentioned Jason Kelce no longer being on the team, but they came up with the with the tush push. And do you have any concern that Saquon could be the workhorse, could be putting mileage on his body, but then once it gets to where you're looking to get those 6 points, that Hurts just takes it himself?
Maybe. I think it'd also go the other way around, where it's like, why are we risking Jalen getting hurt when we have Saquon? We're going to put Saquon.
I think it's going to be interesting to find out how much of this was Jason's ability.
Look, it might be, to my knowledge, it didn't sound like they were going to be doing the tush push nearly as frequently as at all this year, and mostly because of him. So I think with removing all of that, I think you have to have a handoff to Saquon for a lot of those short yardage plays. Look, is it not just encouraging, though, that it's going to put Jalen Hurts in safer situations, in which he doesn't have to be the guy to do that? Because he had to be the guy last year.
I think it is smart. And yeah, I'm interested to see just how the whole mechanism works and how much of what they're saying is posturing and smoke, and how much of it is not a we aren't doing this anymore because it's our choice of we don't have the center that's capable of making this an automatic first down like we did in the past.
Yeah, I can see it. But I also think they're going to be going against the Giants and the Washington Commanders and whatever Dallas is throwing out there, and that there's a good chance that this team's going to be pretty good again. All right, so we both got them at 1. I have Dallas at 2, and it's mostly just because I don't know what I hate more of. All right, so Washington has a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, and the Giants probably have the best player between both of these teams and Malik Neighbors, but they don't. Those are just pieces. Like, those aren't teams. Those don't add up to just wins. So I just couldn't find a way to lower Dallas anymore based on both of those. So I had Dallas at 2. Did you drop many more? I wish you did. Did
No,
you do it?
no,
No.
they have Dak Prescott, and there's going to be crazy Dallas fans that are thinking, "Oh, this is our year. You know, we just signed CeeDee Lamb. You know, we're ready to go." And I'm pumping the brakes on that. You know, that's too high of expectations. But you could be second in the division. You're not falling further than second, or something has really gone wrong here. You know, like you said, you're going against a rookie quarterback, and you're going against Daniel Jones question mark, and then behind that, Drew Lock. Or are we running Tommy DeVito back out there?
I think he's still on the roster.
Yeah, yeah. So let's say, as it is right now, Daniel Jones is the starter. At what week have they moved on to Drew Lock or Tommy?
Week 3. Like, I think this is over
Ooh,
quick.
really
I
early.
don't. I don't think.
You're not even getting into October.
No. Well,
Okay.
I mean, look. I mean, how much more film do you need to see of him? Like, what are we?
He's coming off an injury.
Sure,
You can make the argument. All right, there's some rust, and he's just got to kick the rust off, and then he'll be good. They're paying him a lot of money.
and they could have been paying it to Saquon. Instead, they gave it to him. It was so funny. And now they have just him, and they don't have him. It's a messy situation. I didn't want to. This might spoil a little bit of future AFC East stuff, but I think it's between the Giants and the Patriots for the worst team in the league. Like, I think it's bad. This is real bad. How bad is it? Like, I think the Giants are terrible.
I don't think they're going to be successful this year. No.
All right, so we got them at 4. We're going with Washington at 2. Any love for the rookie? How many games is he going to play this year? Like, is he actually going to make it through a whole season? The injury risk just seems outrageous fantasy wise.
Well, what's the injury risk?
I think he's a tiny quarterback that could just get broken at any point on the run. Seeing how he's going to have to run, he's going to be on the run. Doesn't have a good line. I think he's going to get injured. I think it's like Anthony Richardson.
And Anthony Richardson had some size. I think that he is going to be outside of a top 10 fantasy quarterback, but I think if just the way you described it, like, that's the injury risk. I mean, I think you could say that about almost any player, and definitely any quarterback. That just, oh well, they're a small guy, they might get hit. It's like, well, yeah, that could happen to anybody. That'd just be unfortunate. But I think he's got a chance. You know, he's a top quarterback pick, and we just still haven't seemed to be able to figure it out as a football community on which of these guys are going to be good and which of them are not. I'm hoping that Drake May is going to be one of the ones that is, but I don't think right now we can tell which of those top 3 guys are it.
I guess I'm just basing it on, was it Sam Howell, who was the other young draft pick they had at quarterback last year, was, I think, the most hit quarterback on Washington. So, I mean, I guess they got a guy that can run now. It doesn't mean that the line is going to stop anybody. He's just running for his life. It's going to be a tough situation. But, you know, like you said, he's an athlete and he's got legs, and that's more of a threat than a lot of other teams have. So as long as he doesn't get injured, it's effective without really having much else. Any love for Scary Terry? Is McLaurin going to continue this streak of terrible quarterback and fantasy delivering every week?
Daniels has got to throw it to somebody. Who else are you going to throw it to?
I just feel like the trend has to end eventually. Like, Terry, I feel like he's wasted his whole career here, unfortunately. But he has won some fancy weeks for all of us, and it's fun to continue. There's definitely value there. I got him like kind of mid seventh round, and I don't know. I guess anything for a number one receiver at that point. Um, any other fantasy stuff for Dallas?
No, not for Dallas.
How about Washington?
Not for watching. Mine is the Giants.
What do you got?
Devin Singletary.
No,
He's coming in. He and Dayball have some history together previously, and I'm thinking a sneaky flex. I think he's going close to like around 100, and if you can get a guy as a flex in that spot, I think it'd be worth it. He's filling in for Barkley, and we just mentioned these quarterbacks are all, rough. So I think they're going to have to run. They're going to have to hand it off, and I don't think that him specifically. It's just like he is going to be the number one back, and who is ever in that role, I think there's going to be some value. I'm not saying it's going to be the number one running back on your team, but I think a flex that no one else is looking for.
I could see it. It's not the ugliest thing. I think drafting Neighbors at 3 is, or even in the 4th round, I think it's kind of crazy for what this offense is going to be. It's going to be such boom or bust, and I think at that point you're better off just waiting. Just take Terry McLaurin in like 4 more rounds rather than a boom or bust this early. I think you can get a way more consistent receiver than Neighbors. But and a Singletary super late, I guess I could see a little bit of that. You're going to be starting some guys through some injuries, and at that point, once the draft goes on, this might be a guy that at least he's just getting reps. Like you just want a guy that's getting minutes kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it is garbage time, and the Giants are about to lose their 5th game in a row, but it's the 4th quarter, and someone needs to carry the ball.
All right, you got Dallas at 2, but are you going to put them in the playoffs? Are we doing that? You think they're getting in? I don't think they're going to get in. I think this is a rebuilding year, and they really don't want to admit it. But I think they're taking a step back.
Let me pull up the odds here. So you're like they're not even gonna be close.
I mean, and they're still going to finish second, so it's not like they're going to suddenly tank below the other two teams.
Well, remember we have more wild cards now.
I like other teams in other divisions more. Is just what I'm saying. It's statistically, yes, you might be right. This team might be able to still get in, just based on how bad the two opponents are below them.
Vegas has them as basically minus 200 to make the playoffs. I think just with the expansion of the playoffs in the past couple of years, I think they'll make it in. They're going to be one of the wild card teams that, if this was 3 years ago, I think it's much more likely that they just come up short. But now that there's so many teams that get in, I think they're going to have to get in.
Yeah, I mean, when has bringing back Zeke or a running back of really any stature ever failed before? This is totally going to work.
Has it ever happened?
It's a very weird situation. I was shocked that the Patriots signing him last year and then not re-signing him this year. Normally that means you're done. Like when the Patriots won't even take you, like your career's over. It's a terrible way to assess everything, but like that's normally the fair reality where we're kind of taking the scraps of whatever's left, and once we decide you're not good enough for us, you rarely get a job after that, let alone a job back on the Cowboys. So I don't know what sort of voodoo relationship they got going over there, but there's some sort of magic that is connecting this to make it all possible, because I just wouldn't have done it. I'm not saying I would have held on to Pollard either, but I think I would have tried to find a better solution than this. I mean, do you think they should have went for somebody like Saquon instead? With the Lamb contract dispute right now, with the Dak stuff that just happened?
Well, the Lamb stuff all got taken care of, and I'm thinking their thought is we're going to be more of a passing team and don't need to focus so much on the run. And I don't think they probably would have been able to afford a Barkley. Like, look how much they're paying Lamb. Like how much they shelled out for Dak. There's almost only so much money that can go around, and those names are going to look for a high price.
I guess I just feel like the Cowboys were at their best success when they also had a threatening Zeke and not an older Zeke, and whatever Pollard kind of was during that transition period between them. And I don't have that anymore. or at least they're
Nope.
trying to really replicate an old recipe. It's it's not that it hasn't worked. It's just that I don't think it's going to work this year. All right, moving on. AFC East. Oh man, we got some drama in this one. We got some hometown heroes in New England. Do you want to start with the good news or the bad news?
Let's go with the good news.
All right. Well, I don't think New England's going to win this year, and we're going to get a good draft pick going into next year. That's the good news. I went back and forth between all these New York teams. I didn't have the guts to really say Miami's going to take control over this year. I just think they're such a in or out hot week offense that certainly can be threatening at times, but just isn't that consistent. So I was deciding between Buffalo and New York, and I'm not really the biggest Rodgers supporter, but the more I just broke down the rosters and sort of the replacements that the Bills are going through right now, I just couldn't find a way to not have the New York Jets at the top. And it kills me. They have the fourth easiest schedule going into the year. I think Breece Hall is going to be an excellent fantasy player and an actual football player that's going to score points and do a lot of good things for them. I think Garrett Wilson's good. I think Mike Williams is a good enough number 2 if he even plays half the season. I actually think even if they don't have Rodgers this year, this team could still win this division. Like I don't even think it's wild that Tyrod Taylor could end up having more wins than Aaron Rodgers this year and still winning this division. I hate it. Can you rain all over it? Tell me you're going with someone else. Like, is it really going to be Jet season?
I just can't. I can't picture it.
Oh,
I've been alive, for a long time now, and have you ever like there's been like a little tiny bit of success just every once in a while, but that was on the defensive side. They do have some premier defensive players, but Aaron Rodgers is not a young guy, and he's coming off of a season-ending injury last year. It was the first week, so he's had the most amount of time. But I think at a certain point, I just don't know if you're going to be able to, ever fully recover. And it has to be successful.
I think it's kind of a miracle.
There's
that
no
this team
other option.
Won
You
as
can't
many
bench
games as they
Rodgers.
did. This game is a miracle. This team won as many games as they did last year. And I think you look at the quarterback play, and I think Tyrod Taylor is already a significant step over whatever it was last year. I mean, last year was embarrassing. Wilson got benched, and then they had to beg Wilson to come back, and he was like, no, and then he did it anyways. Like, what? That's never going to happen again. It's not going to happen between these two, and I just think you have a way steadier hand, some actual veterans that aren't going to cost you games, and if Rodgers plays, he might even be able to win you some more games. I'm with you with the vulnerability of all this. I just felt like it was a little bit of a reloading period for Buffalo, which they needed. They have a harder schedule, and I think they needed this kind of youth to get a little bit faster. I think they were getting a little slow, a little old, and I think they were paying a little bit of too many old guys, and I think they'll be fine. Like, I still have it too. I think they'll be a way bigger threat in the playoffs than the Jets will be. I just think throughout the regular season, this Bills team is going to be rebuilding and figuring it out, while this Jets team, I think, might already be set to go from day one. And it could all collapse in 4 plays. I mean, what did Rodgers last? 4 snaps last year, right? This could all flip upside down on this. But I got the Jets at 1. I guess we could talk about their fantasy value. I'm all in on Breece Hall. I'm a little hesitant on Garrett Wilson based on everything you just said with the Rodgers Tyrod thing. But in a perfect world, I think he'll be really, really good with Rodgers. And that's up to you if you want to take that risk. I don't know if I would. I think Hall's a safe bet either way, though. Any love for any fantasy Jet players?
I like Breece Hall as well. I think that what he did at the end of last year, I think he's worth the high ceiling. And even if Rodgers isn't elite, even if he is just average, I think that they could still just have like an offense that at least fantasy wise just can chug along. Especially, you're going to get to play the Patriots twice, so that's going to be helpful.
All right. So how far down did you have the Jets then?
Jets at 2.
Jets at 2. All right. I have Buffalo at 2, and I assume you had Buffalo at 1. What do we like about Buffalo? Josh Allen, he's pricey.
He's definitely pricey. That is actually my fantasy nugget is to stay away from Josh Allen in fantasy. There's no more Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs. So I think his reign of just being so much farther away ahead of the other QBs is not going to happen. But that's for fantasy. For real football, I think he's still the quarterback I by far trust the most in the AFC East. And I think that he is going to figure out a way. and I think that the Bills are still better than the Jets and the Dolphins.
I think so too. They just might not have the regular season to prove it, like, if that makes any sense at all. I think the second we get into the playoffs, the experience of this team and even the brutal losses they've had, I think will come to benefit them, hopefully, if they can just get through it. I'm not so shy about the fantasy love for James Cook, the running back, or Josh Allen. I'd be all right with that. Dalton Kincaid, will he, won't he? I think every year is a risky play. I don't know if I would do that. I do like the Keon Coleman, rookie wide receiver. He's going way, way later, 10, 11 rounds. I think that's a worthy shot in the dark of just, you got some speed. I don't know if you've seen any of his interviews. He's a pretty interesting guy, too. He seems to always find a camera in his face somehow. I don't know if that'll end up being a distraction, but I think he'll be a fun fantasy player to have on your team, and you can get him real late. All right, number 3.
Was that Coleman or Kincaid that liked the camera?
Coleman.
Coleman, gotcha.
Coleman. Has to be Miami. It can't be New England, right? It has to be Miami.
No, Miami at 3. They had these just games last year where they were absolutely on fire, and then they'd have other games where it was just an absolute slog, and it seemed like they were having trouble figuring it out. And I wonder if it has more to do with the other teams than with them, and it has to do with that unique offense that Mike McDaniel is running, where you have the pre-snap motion, and just wondering if certain defenses have it figured out and other defenses are just flummoxed by it. And when you're flummoxed by it, it makes it look awful. But when you don't get bent out of shape by it, it's easily stoppable. And I just think with football, you can have something new. We saw a long time ago where Miami, just happens to be Miami again, they ran the Wildcat and out of nowhere, and they were having success. And it seemed like, wait, is the Wildcat going to be like for real? Like, is this going to be a part of everybody's offense that has to get implemented? And it was a flash in the pan, and we've seen a lot of flash in the pan type stuff. And I think that this is similar. It is working now, but I think that the defenses are going to figure this out very quickly. And if it is just relying on this pre-snap motion trickery, they're going to be in trouble. And they're not going to be as good as the teams ahead of them. They still have Tyreek Hill. Last year, he definitely had some injuries. He's getting a little bit older. Maybe he's distracted by trying to race this Olympic sprinter. So I don't know if he's all the way focused. But they have a lot of assets. They have a lot of running backs. I'm not sure which one is going to be the one that pops for you on your fantasy team, but there's still something that I just don't trust it.
Look, that's all true. I think they're still the third best team. This offense might be one of the better offenses, and I still think fantasy-wise I wouldn't shy away from them. In terms of strength of schedule, Jets have the 4th easiest, Buffalo has the 10th hardest, Miami has the 8th easiest, and New England has the 2nd hardest schedule in the league. The only thing
that's what happens when you're bad and you can't play yourself.
Well, that's it's not just that. That's purely just based on the opponents we're going against and their win percentage of what they're expected to win this year. It has nothing to do with the reflection of our talent of a team. That's just literally our opponents. So, yeah, it's very discouraging that we're going to be playing a lot of really good teams. My only thing with Miami that I think is a little iffy fantasy-wise is why is Raheem Mostert going in the 6th round? Like, what has changed so much that Achane is supposed to go early 2nd and Mostert's supposed to go late 6th now? Like, what? Why is he suddenly devalued all this? They're going to be running the same offense. I imagine they're both going to be getting plenty of work out of all this. I don't understand why Achane is so expensive and Mostert is way cheaper. I don't think that makes sense.
The age, right?
Yeah, but you could still. I still feel like he's going to be. He has better value in my opinion because he's going later, and I don't know why. And there's a chance.
I could see that. That's fair.
Is there not a chance that one of them gets hurt and then you totally luck out having the other one? But one of them you got to pay a lot more, and the other one you didn't have to pay nearly as much. I'm just a risk reward thing. Achane definitely the better running back at this point. A lot younger, a lot more upside. But there's a lot of other guys you can get in the 2nd round. 6th round, it's kind of like, well, I could get a guy that if Achane gets hurt, I now have the starter for an offense that's at least going to score points. They might not win games, which is the weird part about this and why we both have him third. But fantasy wise, Waddle, Hill, Tua scares the hell out of me. But at least those two are very active and find a way to get open and get the ball.
At any moment, Tua can throw it up for an 80-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill. At any moment. And all of a sudden, a pedestrian game can turn into, a 20-point game, in one play. Just flip of the switch.
All right. And then lastly, at fourth in the AFC East, I have New England. We have a rookie head coach, former player. We just have a bad offense. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, our defense could surprise us. We might win games we don't deserve to win, but I just don't think we have a good offense. I already said we don't have an easy schedule, and that doesn't even reflect that Brissett might already be hurt and how much harder this could be just going straight in with Drake May. I don't want to do that. I want to wait at least 4 weeks. At least, please, give us like 8 weeks of something else before we just throw this guy in there. This team is not ready for this, and as much as I think he will eventually be good, I just don't want him to just get his confidence completely shook and taken away by a team that has no chance of being led by a rookie quarterback. It's going to be a rough year. This is going to be hard. Do you have any good news? Like, what is the uplifting part about all this? Is that we won how many Super Bowls already? Like, is anything into this year?
You really want to know what the good news is?
No. Yeah, give me something.
The good news is that the Celtics are getting their rings on October 22nd, and basketball is going to start.
That's it, right?
That's it. That's it. Hopefully your fantasy team is good, because if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt on you, and your Patriots are bad and your fantasy team is bad, it's going to be dark. It's going to be dark all of September. The leaves are going to be changing. It's going to literally be dark outside sooner, and it is going to be rough. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on us to draft good fantasy teams, because I just don't see any way that any of this is successful. Going into this, I think the takeaway, like, our expectations forever were Super Bowl, and it was about making it, and then you're like, all right, well, now we made it. All right, we should just win this thing. And we were very successful at that. We did that for a long time. Now the expectations are totally different. I say coming out of this year, we're going to end up with another high pick. We'll see what we'll get. And we have to figure out by the end of the year if Gerard Mayo is a competent coach, and we have to find out if Drake May can be a legitimate quarterback. Is he Mac Jones, or is he a guy that actually could stick around in this league? And we got to know that by the end of this year. Those are the two things. It's not about how many games we win or anything like that. Maybe we can play spoiler at some point, and that might be kind of fun. But yeah, this is not going to be we're not even thinking about playoffs.
No, we're not. You want to talk about different expectations. My expectations is I don't think we're going to win many games. We're going to be lucky to win any games. I don't even want to admit that I think there's a potential scenario we don't win any games. So if we win something, we're going to spoil somebody. I don't care. I'm going to take those 2-3 wins because that might be it. It's going to be a dark season of who knows what. I mean, I don't want to fire the coach halfway through because I don't think that's going to be totally fair. I mean, we're starting with these sort of expectations. We got to give everyone time. But the only people who don't want to give it time are us, the fans, that are just going to be tortured. We're just going to watch this entire rebuild happen this year. And I don't know, maybe Rodgers gets hurt again, and that's the only joy we can have is that, oh, wow, why did they bet on an old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury? What a wild idea. At least we didn't do that. Right? Like, what's the other joy we could be having here? I hate to root for injuries, but, I mean, this New England team is not good. Any fantasy love for here at all?
There should be something on the defense. I mentioned it to you over the summer when we re-signed all of the same guys and said this seems like a problem, but you said no, don't worry about it. Traded Judon. I don't know if you want to consider the best player, but for sure a fan favorite. Got rid of Judon right before the season started. Seemed like there was going to be a contract issue down the way there. So depending on what side of the fence you fall on, whether you think that was a good idea or not. But we held teams last year, and the offense just couldn't do anything. And so it sure doesn't look like the offense is going to be very good. But I would like to think that the defense is at least in the same sort of category. So at least make these low-scoring, grind them out kind of games.
So you would draft their fantasy defense for New England. Is there anybody here at all? Do you want the utility of Antonio Gibson? Maybe he's going to get a lot of catches.
I don't think that I want I don't think I want the defense just because with the offense just being such a question mark. Even if your defense is good, it's just if it repeatedly is expected to, almost do the impossible, you're going to get burned. And I just think that you probably want to stay away from that. Probably there's going to be some matchups that are gonna work out, and the Patriots will look like a good pick, but I don't think they're going to be a you draft them, early somehow and think like you could just start them every week.
It's going to be rough. It's going to be so rough. Oh, we're so fucking spoiled, man. We won too many. We won too many times. When we trade it back, we spread them all out a little bit more. I feel like it happened all too much at once. All right, so that's it for the AFC and the NFC East. Did you have anything else you wanted to add fantasy wise before your draft this week?
Nothing fantasy wise, but just as a update from last night's game, Mayo came out afterwards and said if it had been a real game that Jacoby would have been able to come back in. So I don't expect that injury to really impact things going forward. And he also mentioned in the press conference that Drake May has been playing better than Jacoby Brissett. I don't know why he said that, but he said that.
Woohoo! He's got to sit for at least a couple games. How many games do you want him to sit this year? How many games do you want May to play? Really, like 8 games, 4 games, no games?
I think I want him to play some games because I think we want to find out. Okay, what is it? But it's got to be in October. I don't know. Maybe I don't have the schedule up in front of me, but looking maybe like somewhere like around Halloween, where we're 1-7 or 2-6 or something like that, and we're just kind of tired of. All right, we know what we're getting out of Jacoby. He's doing the best he can. He's kind of getting banged up, and just the whole fan base is just ready. Of okay, clearly the season we have no tricks, no thinking like, all right, well if we just string a little win streak here, we could make the playoffs. Like let's do it. Nope, it's like all right, Jacoby is over the hill. Let's put Drake May out there. Let's see what he's got.
All right, I'd like him to play at least 8 games, I think. And that's more of, I don't think Brissett, even if he does stay healthy, we're going to be able to watch this for more than 8 games. I'm going to be happy that he's taking the hits that May could be hitting and just take half of them for the year. That's all I want. But I don't think there's really much of a high ceiling with Brissett either. All right, speaking of
that's why he's been a backup for years now.
Speaking of punishment season, some of the fantasy punishments from the previous year, not between us, but between others across the world, have come across my social media nonstop. I saw a new one. I haven't seen this before. I sent it to you earlier. The consequence for losing in fantasy football this year, this guy had to travel to Vegas with only $20 to spend and stay there for 24 hours. He doesn't have anywhere to stay. That $20 is supposed to cover everything you would need. So anything you could imagine, any entertainment, any food, any where to stay, you're starting with that $20. I thought this was a clever punishment. It's definitely a real punishment, though. Things can go real weird. I mean, Vegas never turns off. I suppose that's the advantage. And because of that, I think my strategy would be to try to sleep in the day, of finding like a pool lounge to just hang out. And that's your sleep opportunity, because sleeping at night, that's going to be sketchy as hell. You're never going to find anywhere comfortable. There's not a corner of Vegas at night that you're going to be like, yeah, I can close my eyes here. That's not going to go well. I don't think you want to do that. But I do think you get all sorts of walking around. If you wanted to gamble, that's certainly a risk. I would maybe consider doing like a small sports bet that would take all day, so that you could stay in the sports betting section saying like, hey, I have a ticket. I have a bet. It still hasn't closed yet. It's going to be 6 more hours till this sport event is over, and we'll find a way. But what sort of strategy would you do if you were stuck in Vegas for 24 hours with only $20?
So I tried to fill it up with as much as I could. I was thinking your draft's at 7:00 at night, so you're getting there 7:00. The night before. and I tried to fill it with as much things as I could. I'm definitely going to need some help here. I I didn't specifically look at the hours on these things, but just figured you can swap one thing out for another and figure it out. And like you said, Vegas never closes down. You'll find something. So I have uh let's see, I have seven things to do. Uh, the distance to walk to all of these things is 8 hours. This is like the most like it makes the most sense if you're trying to do this the fastest. So I guess if you were trying to kill more time, you could make more of a zigzag pattern. But it's okay. It's around 7 o'clock. I'm starting off at the Stagecoach Bar. I found out you can get a beer and a hot dog for $2 there. You did not seem concerned at all about food. I don't know if we were just at different parts of our day, but that was like a main concern for me. Is I'm going to be hungry, and
Yeah, but you're not going to
when
be
you're
drinking
hungry,
either, though.
no, I'm drinking. No, I'm getting a beer and a hot dog for $2.
I think
And so
that's a ridiculous idea. I'm just saying I could eat one protein bar and be good for 24 hours as long as I'm not drinking beer all day. Like, that's not going to be a punishment at all. It's fasting. I fast every day. It's not.
that sounds awful.
It's not a challenge.
I'm already angry. I'm already angry at how hungry I am.
Well,
so I'm starting off with food.
This isn't a reward, all right? You're out here having a beer and a hot dog already here. This is a punishment.
Well, no. Well, I only have $20, so I went and found the cheapest option. So I'm starting off beer and 2 beers, 2 hot dogs, get things going.
Yeah,
so there's $5.
You're worried about your food. I'm worried about your stomach. That's your diet? Great. All right, yeah, I'd rather not eat anything. All right, continue.
All right, we have different plans. You're gonna be, starving because it's 7 o'clock at night, and you got to somehow stay up all night. So all right, so now that's what I've done. Now I'm gonna walk to the Golden Nugget Las Vegas Hotel and Casino. They have the Hands of Faith. It's like the biggest nugget in the world. I'm gonna check that out. Then I'm gonna go to the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop. I'm gonna check that out. I figure each of these I can probably walk there and then mess around for like an hour. As I'm not trying to walk as quickly as possible if I find anything along the way. From there, I'm gonna walk south. I'm gonna walk to the Sphere. That seems cool. Yeah, obviously I'm not gonna be able to afford to see who's ever playing, but I can at least walk around, and it's a very unique building. Right next to that, we have the Bellagio Conservatory Botanical Gardens.
Completely free, outside and inside.
Completely free. From there, I'm going to continue to walk south. Here's where we're going to spend some more of my money. Probably another $5. I think I really got to pinch my pennies here, but it's going to be at the Pinball Hall of Fame. Free to get in. And then all the pinball games are like $25, or not $25, like 25 cents, 50 cents. So I could definitely kill some time. Pinball's cool. I'm sure there's gonna be like some interesting people. Just kind of people watch. You kind of take a break. I gotta imagine there's probably a bathroom in there. That's probably gonna be important in this whole trip going on.
All the casinos are going to have restrooms, Zach, right? They're all going to be...
I've never been to Vegas. I don't know how this works. I don't know if they're like checking you at the door being like, hey, man, you got to spend some money in here before you can do anything.
It might be like,
in New York City. You just don't walk into like a McDonald's and use the bathroom. You got to buy something. And so I got to make sure. Just I'm thinking about it. All right. Then from
Vegas restrooms totally open everywhere you go. No problems there.
Yeah. So I'm doing this. I'm doing this as never been to Vegas before, so this will be extra hard for me. Okay, so then from there, from the Pinball Hall of Fame, I'm going even further south, and I'm going to the aquarium at the Silverton Casino, also free. So that, like I said, that is 7 different places to go. It takes about 8 hours to walk. So I'm thinking there's 15 hours. So now I've made it from 7 o'clock at night until 10 o'clock the next day. I have $10 more. I'm going to buy breakfast, and that's got to tide me over. And then I'm going to find stuff to do from 10. And then I'm thinking around 5, that's when my buddies are going to start showing up for this draft. And maybe they'll take pity on me, and maybe somebody will buy me like a early dinner or like a late lunch and let me off the hook.
Do you think you have any chance of having anyone buy you something while you're there, telling them the reason you were there? Like, is anyone going to have sympathy for you for being like, I have no money, be my friend in Vegas? Is that not already every single person on the Strip? Or are they going to be like, oh, it's for your fantasy football? That's so funny. What a great idea. That's so embarrassing. What a consequence. I'll buy you a beer, buddy. Like, does that exist? Is that person out there in Vegas?
You you really have to. I feel like you have to thread the needle on it. If if you play it cool, it could work. But if you come off it as desperate at all, people are just gonna basically laugh at you and walk away. So I think it would be very difficult to pull off. Not impossible, but would be difficult to pull off.
I think you would have to at least buy one drink at the bar, which would be a very heavy dip into your $20 to even have a chance at making a friend with someone else here. And it is possible, but the whole begging in Vegas, I'm sure there's a lot of people already begging in Vegas for all the dumb reasons you could already get into trouble there. Any of the gambling. I think if you were to gamble, other than the sports betting, I would maybe try like you said, 25 cent. What was it? Not ping pong.
The pinball.
Pinball.
Well, you're not going to win anything in
No,
pinball.
no. But
that wasn't gambling. That was just cheap entertainment.
Sure, you could sit at one of the bars and just do 25-cent poker hands for hours. I imagine. There's a chance you could actually win money too.
For hours? I don't think so.
Why not?
You're going to be out of money so fast.
Not if you win.
Well, that obviously with all of this, yeah. I think you have to think of what the likely outcomes are.
Well,
you're not
playing
for
dollars.
Going to lose your money.
You're playing for cents. You get way more hands if you're playing 25 cents.
In 4 hands, that's $1.
Yeah, you think you're going
to lose? You only have 20.
Yeah, but you're not going to lose every one.
It's 80 hands?
You're not going to lose every one.
How fast do you think you're going to go through 80 hands?
Well, you don't have to hit the button like there's a shot clock there. You don't have to play. You're not chain smoking into the next game here. You can take some time. It's at your leisure. It's not like you're being dealt anything. It's a computer in front of you. You can do it at whatever pace you want. You can do it once an hour.
The things are literally designed to make you to hit the button faster.
You can do it once an hour. You pop in. You either won 25 cents or you lost 25 cents. You can do it at every place you just mentioned. Every place you just mentioned, you can do it.
You're not talking about sitting down. You're talking about doing it, getting up, going somewhere else. Okay, that's a little different than what I was picturing.
If you sit down at the right spot too, you might be able to score a drink. If you tell them you don't want a drink, you might even get some food. They'll bring you out some hot fries or something. I've seen it happen. You got to get a player's card for all that. That's entirely free. I would do that. That would be my first move. I would get a player's card. You just walk up. They scan your ID. They give you a card. Anything you do that's affiliated with that card, like the businesses, have them scan the card before. It'll show you all the stuff you did, and maybe by the end of the day, they'll be like, wow, you did a lot of stuff. We'll give you something. You never know. You have no chance if you don't do it, though. If you get the card, though, there's a chance to, who knows? Maybe you end up in a room. Hey man, stop sleeping out here. Let's fix this. Like, there's
you make Vegas sound like this very friendly place, which I just don't get that picture. But I've never been, so
the players' cards can be generous if played properly. But if you don't get them, you're not going to get anything. And I think some people are like, well, I never got nothing. It's like, well, you didn't.
Yeah, see, you're going the gambling route, so I guess you got a better chance there. Where I'm already hungry, so I'm spending all my money on food and pinball.
I just think I could spend $5 on a bunch of protein bars, and that'd be more than enough for an entire day like this. As long as I'm still able to access water, which there's water fountains.
How much does a protein bar cost?
How many calories do you need? You need this many calories? You're not bulking in this day. All right, this isn't your normal diet.
I get hungry,
and you need 4
beers. I can't
just
go 24 hours without eating anything.
I don't find that to be nearly as much of a challenge. I guess the fasting isn't hard, and I'm definitely not wasting anything on alcohol though. Like the beer buy, that's I don't know what you're doing with that.
It was $2. I don't even know where I could get a hot dog for $2 anywhere else. It was like a combined deal.
I think cannabis would be a way better deal. It's legal out in Vegas, so that would be for $2. You could find something else that'll kill you way more hours than that.
Maybe, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a lot more expensive.
I don't know.
And that's gonna make you more hungry.
It doesn't really change my mood, but yeah, for most people, for sure.
Yeah, I'm mostly concerned about the food situation, and yeah, I was gonna be doing a lot of walking because, like you said, don't want to be caught sleeping somewhere in a city, not just Vegas, really anywhere.
I think you have too many activities, and while it'll make the time go by faster, I think it's just gonna make you hungrier and more desperate for all the stuff. Versus like hanging out somewhere and trying to lounge, I think is gonna just not make you interested in something else either. Just forget about it more. You're constantly on the move. You're constantly walking in and out of casinos, constantly walking by food, smelling food. That's going to certainly be way more enticing. It will be a better trip though overall if we do it your way. It may be harder to survive, but you'll have better stories. In your trip, more or less, is what I would do if it was your first time in Vegas. Just walk around, and if you want to stop and do something, you'll get the vibe to stop and do it. That's it. That's the only rule. It's an interesting punishment, nonetheless. Though.
I had to come up with a plan. I came up with a plan, and man, $20. That is not a lot of money to try to figure this out.
No.
It is a rough punishment. That guy should have been better at fantasy football.
Yeah, do you think he'd be better at flag football?
No, I think he'd be worse.
Do you think NFL stars should be in the Olympic football team? Or do you think
yes, I do.
Olympic football team that was promoting this sport that somehow managed to get it into the Olympics should be the ones to represent us? This is ridiculous, right? This is a silly
story. I think
story.
We should put the best athletes that are the best at the sport into it.
I mean, to me, I'm not taking anything away from the flag football players. I'm sure they're very good, and I'm sure they represent their league very well. But to act like they chose to do flag football and that they were good enough to do the NFL is just not true. Or at least I'm under the impression of that just not being true. Versus, there's no NFL guys that are turning down NFL jobs to be like, you know what, I'm gonna go join that flag football thing. There's just that doesn't exist. That's not. We're not going that way. We're talking about. One of these guys owns the bar. The other guy's a bartender. All right, these are two totally different worlds here. I hate to break it to everybody here, but I think it's a no-brainer that you would want NFL players to do this. I don't think it's that much of a difference in transition. This isn't 3-on-3 and 5-on-5 basketball. I think some NFL guys might really like doing this. What are your thoughts on this? I saw. Oh,
I don't even want to mention that dude's name. This is the same thing as the Olympic sprinter. He is just creating content to get attention for himself, and it's silly. It's very silly.
Yeah, no quotes, nothing. I think it's disrespectful that they just automatically assume that they're able to just join the Olympic team because of that person, because of the person that they are. They didn't help grow the game to get it to the Olympics. Give the guys who helped this game get to where it is their respect. This is Daryl House Doucette, the quarterback of the USA national flag football team. Disrespectful.
It's like I said, he's just looking for attention. I understand why he's doing it. I understand that he has been working tirelessly, selflessly to get, the flag football in front of more and more fans. But have tryouts, then pick the best players. How about we do it that way?
Yeah, that sounds all right with me. Do you think NFL teams want you playing on these teams, or do they think they want you doing nothing remotely close to this? Yeah, I got a vibe on that too.
Yeah, the same way the NBA teams don't want you doing it, but there's like an agreement that has been, or a truce, or I don't know exactly what you call it. Yeah, that allows them to play.
All right, college football time. We had week 0. You were asking me if I was going to be watching week 0 in college football, and I did not. And then some stuff happened.
What was your exact response to that?
When I said
your exact response was it was week 0, so I gave it 0 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds like a clever thing I came up with at that time and couldn't repeat right now. Yeah, I didn't. I gave it 0 interest at all. I didn't watch it at all. I didn't care. I saw some team lost, and it was like a complete travesty. Their entire season's over now. All on week 0. Hasn't even been to week 1, and their whole season's over. It's what a sport. What a ride where it all gets ruined in week 1. Woohoo! What fun.
Well, week 0, and playoffs are different this year. It's 12-team. FSU, who is the team that you're pretending like no one knows about, and it's like some obscure team, was ranked. They went to Ireland, lost in the first game of the year, got upset by Georgia Tech. Wasn't really expected. A lot of parlays got busted right away, right at 3:30. But last year, FSU went undefeated and got left out of the playoffs. This year, they lose the first game. There are 12 teams getting into the playoffs. They still have a chance. They can still make it in. So the season is not over, despite what some people think. Some uninformed people that don't know anything about college football might think.
Yeah, go ahead. Call me uninformed and call it week 0 one more time. Tell me the logic behind that idea. Week 0?
It's a little appetizer.
Yeah, we're either counting or we're not counting. You don't do 0. It's 1, 2, 3.
Well, there's only 4 games, so it's just like a little, just a little taster. It moves football a little bit closer. I don't know why you're fighting. You want football to be farther away? You want to start in October?
My argument is purely with the label of it. And you're making fun of me. I'm making fun of the name. All right, and you have no argument for week 0, the name, because that is ridiculously stupid. It just doesn't make sense. Just call it a taster then. I'd rather it be week taster, appetizer.
Weak taster. I think it's a little bit of a mouthful, but we can work on it for next year.
It's not great off the top here. I'll tell you that. But it's better in week 0. What sense does that make? You're just trying to sell me on watching week 0? This is like the preseason. Like I don't need it.
They count. These count. These games count. There are winners and there are losers.
So it's week 1. Great. Not a problem here at all.
What is next week?
Week 2.
Really
what comes after 1? Why would it be week 1 again? It'd be week 2.
Because there wasn't enough games.
Oh man, I understand that you don't pick the schedule.
I don't know how this is so hard to understand.
Understanding that week 0 is hard to follow. Like what?
Yeah, that's 0 is the first number. It starts at 0, and then you go 1, and then 2, and then you go up.
So when the Celtics open on opening night, is it game 0 or game 1?
Well, it's game 1.
Wait, when's their game 0?
Well, that's like the preseason. Colleges, you don't.
All right, but the preseason
games.
ones don't count. This one counts. No, you're not going to talk your way out of this one. No, week 0 is stupid. All right, it's fine. It's not anything against the sport. It's just a bad name. All right, I will show more enthusiasm.
There were 4 football games available to people that wanted to watch football, and it was very cool to go into some bars on Saturday, and rather than there being Little League on or baseball, and not even the Olympics are over, and it's like it's football. There's football on, real kickoffs. There's winners, there's losers. It was so nice. It was so nice to have that back, and we're only going to get more of it as we have a full slate of college games, and in less than 2 weeks we will have a full slate of NFL games.
All right, you got less than 2 minutes. What are we looking forward to this week for college football? You need more time?
This week? Yeah, I was going to do a little more about conference realignment. But...
Oh, my God. All right, yeah, no, that's fine. I promised you more time on this. It's all right. All right, music's off. All right, go ahead. What do we got going on this week?
Yeah, let me do conference realignment first. So this is just a reminder. Some of these realignments happened a couple of years ago. Some of it was announced more recently for different conferences, but this is all being implemented this year. So this is also a good heads up for, if you don't really care about football so much, but you're more of a basketball fan, to let you know, hey, here's what is going to be coming up this year. The ACC added Cal, SMU, and Stanford. The Big Ten added Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington. The Big 12 added Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. The Pac-12 is just 2 teams now.
First and last.
The SEC added Oklahoma and Texas, and the AAC added Army. Conference USA added Kennesaw State. Mostly the smaller ones, and then the Mountain West. They're gonna play games against the Pac-12, the Pac-2, now as like a kind of like helping each other out kind of deal. So there's definitely been a bunch of movement in the non-football sort of segment. Some news that came out this week is that UConn is flirting with the Big 12. UConn football is terrible. They're not in a conference right now, so that's a real problem. But I think the hope is if there's some way they can bolster football to get into the Big 12, that'll make them more money than it would in the Big East, which is very much, it's just basketball focused. So those are the conference realignment. So that's just a friendly reminder. But for this week 1, if you are looking to watch some college basketball, these are spread out very nicely on Saturday. I
Football.
think it's supposed to rain on Saturday, so this should work out. Noon, we have number 14 Clemson at number 1 Georgia. Georgia's coming in again as the favorite to win the title. At 3:30, Miami at Florida. So nice little rivalry right to start things off. And then 7:30, Notre Dame, number 7 Notre Dame at 20 Texas A&M. That should be a good one, prime time. And then Sunday, no pros yet. So there's going to be one primetime game, and that's at 7:30, and it's number 23 USC at number 13 LSU.
Wow, this really sounds like a professional sport where they should pay the athletes, and it's really, really organized. It's week 0 and all.
They do play the players that are getting paid now.
I know. Just you relisted all the conference realignment. It's like, oh yeah, they definitely really got a good hold of all this. This seems really organized, and it will end up for a better quality product. I do believe that. It sounds so messy based on all of the tradition, and all of the tradition is really what everyone loves about college football. To my understanding, it's the tradition and it's the crowd. You're gonna get some interesting crowds this year. I'm excited for crowds at playoff games. You sold me on that, but that's a long way from right now. That's a long way. Maybe if I get bored on one of these Saturdays, I'll tune in. But it's just not NFL games. Maybe if I really miss the kickoffs, I do think there's a good window for that to. Like if I was them, I'd be pushing that. I'd be showing more and more running back highlights of anything if I could, just to be like, oh yeah, remember we used to do this. Because the NFL one's weird. It's like a stagnant start.
It's going to take so long to get used to, especially where college is still doing the traditional.
I mean, I just remember like going to Gillette and the crowd would be going nuts as like the kicker kind of backed up and made a really long kick and the ball was in the air, and then the crowd would go nuts the second the guy caught it. That timing is completely different right now. So even just like watching the game, it's like I don't know the beats to football anymore. It's a strange start, but again, we'll get used to it. But that's going to be the immediate college football thing when it turns on, when the game starts, and that kickoff is the way it's always been, and the crowd's going, and then the ball's in the air, and then it lands, and the crowd goes crazy again. I think I might miss that a little bit. That might be the only thing really tying me into all this on one of these Saturdays. But we'll give it a shot. I don't know. There's some opportunity to talk about Colorado football some more, right? We can keep Dion in the news nonstop.
He seems to be pretty upset.
Did you see they banned some like local reporter from being able to ask questions for them or something?
Yeah, there's been some. It's messy, where then it gets complicated because you have like Dion the celebrity versus Dion the coach. Where if it's Dion the celebrity, he's allowed to say, "Hey, I'm more famous than you. I don't have to answer your questions." But then Dion the coach, it's like, "Hey man, there's this whole kind of give and take that." The reporter's supposed to ask questions and you're supposed to answer it, even if you don't really like the questions. This is journalism, and this is to help the program, the sport, make the fan closer to the sport. So it's not the best of look right now.
It sounds like he's talking to other reporters. I haven't seen him quiet down or anything, so sorry that guy's out. Must have done something wrong. It's not that hard of a job. You don't have to piss off everyone. I think it was more of the way he was interacting with people than his actual writing. I don't think he gave any interest in what he was actually saying. It was just I think the mannerism in which they were communicating with him. I think he was kind of a jerk, from my understanding. But like you said, it's part of the job. It's you're not an athlete anymore. You're a coach. This comes with the coaching job. Either way, it seems like they're never not going to be in the news, and I don't know how much football news we'll actually end up getting this year, but it sounds like it's going to be a lot more of this sort of stuff, and that's never really going to go away. And it was all fun and games last year, and then the pressure really kicked up, and it got ugly. It got ugly quick. Some real bad blowouts. I hope the team is better this year. I can't imagine them being worse, but there's some stiff competition out there, and I don't know if they've quite reached that. But we'll keep an eye on it. I'm sure you'll have them on one of these Sundays or Saturdays must-watch list.
If they start winning, for sure, gotta win.
Yeah. We'll be back next week. Zach will have already completed at least one fantasy draft, and we'll have our last divisions and our last whatever we got for fantasy before our drafts kick off. Yeah, we'll get ours in. Ours are a couple days after the pod next week, so we'll have some more tidbits, and sure we'll recap our draft the week after. But the week after, then it's season. We're week one, like a real sport, kicks off.
Thursday night.
Yeah, appetizer Thursday. We'll be back. Thank you as always for watching Little Column A, Little Column B. You can follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
We'll be back.
Well, little column A, little column B.